I learned how to sit still because the Soviet class, you have to sit like this, 45 minutes, you cannot move. I was never physically abused. In my classroom, they never physically abused us, but verbally they did. And I was so scared that the teacher would yell at me that was my diagnosis. Inna, stop being lazy. Inna, concentrate. Inna, do this. Inna, do that. But yet they immediately go in denial. No, it's not happening to me. No, I don't want it. I repel it. It's not for me.
Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the ADHD Eavesdrop, where you can be a butterfly on the wall and listen in on my conversations. Today, I have Inna Phelps, and Inna is such an interesting person. I love Inna. She and I met on the movie set, and we have developed a quick and very wonderful friendship. And I'm going to let her tell you a little bit about herself, and then we're going to just dive right in. So, hi, Inna, tell us about you.
Hi. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be a part of your nice project. I've been watching it and it's been exciting and it's been an eye-opener. That's the most important thing. And if somebody wants to look me up, I go under by Inna_Victoria.
So Inna, INNA_Victoria, VICTORIA, right?
Yeah. Just in
Yep.
case if somebody wants to go and see my crazy TikTok dances. So yes, me and Janine, we met at the movie set, and that was how many months ago? I would say okay, time is a problem for us. I
Yeah,
would say
we're
roughly
both sitting here going,
maybe like 6 months ago. Let's just round it
Okay.
up. I would say half a year ago. And so when I met with Janine, the interesting part is the moment I saw you on our group chat, we had like a video call. I immediately was drawn to you because of you were giving away more energy. Like everybody else, kind of like on Zoom call, and everybody's kind of quiet and they're talking about what needs to be talked about. And you were smiling and you were just saying those little remarks, which I normally do. So I'm like, But the funniest part is, so I have ADHD, you have ADHD. It's almost like stepsisters competing for mom's attention. Does that make sense? I'm like, who is she? Somebody who has more energy than me, or like she thinks she's funnier than me. So, and I think this is what happens between ADHD peers. I would say it that way. Like I'm sure you talk a lot about, we ADHD people and what challenges do we have and how people perceive us. Let's talk today about ADHD for ADHD, like the dynamic between the ADHD peers, because I have so many stories, and I would say that it's as hard to deal with other ADHD people when you have ADHD, because it's literally double-sided. How do you call it? Double-edged
Double-edged sword.
sword. Yes, because not only it irritates the crap out of you, but then you have it. So it hurts differently because you relate, but then you have so many emotions because there's so much stuff you rejecting in yourself and you masking. And then when you see it in somebody else, it's really cutting really, really deep. Because if you go through denial, or if you're working on this thing and you're failing, and then you seeing that just, I don't know how you deal with that, but I have so many different emotions, and it's not, it's a residual emotions, because you keep coming back to it, because you keep investigating yourself and thinking, why does it bother me so much? And then you have to come back and you have to face it. And then so it's like, oh gosh, it triggers on so many different levels. So with you, it didn't trigger me. It actually like kind of piqued my curiosity. So when I met you physically, remember we were in that house and you were drawing and stuff. I'm like, okay, that's the lady. And then it's all on emotional level. You don't even know. It's not like I picked you out of the crowd because you have ADHD and I have ADHD.
I'm
Like
gonna
it
pick
was
that one.
right. There is something there which you already, like, your attention draws to that person, and then you kind of. So I was very cautiously proceeding with you, just because I did not know. I didn't know whether you triggering me, I didn't know you irritating me, or am I actually very excited? Like I just did not know. And so when I met you, I was kind of like staying back a little bit, which is very interesting because we usually have tendency like, dun, 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 first horse is mine. I don't care where we're going. And this way, I kind of stepped back and I was talking to people I know, and I was like getting to know people I don't know. And then I got to you later because, believe it or not, I was actually observing you. So
I had no
and
idea.
really, oh, I'm glad because I didn't want it to come out creepy. I think it all goes on self-conscious level. So just to give you a perspective, I am the first generation immigrant. I am a, Russian American. I was the first one in my family to move to the United States 25 years ago. So it's the same. It's like DNA / subconscious level. I can be in the crowd of people and I can pick a Russian person immediately without even that person speaking. It's like gut instinct, it's like my people. But the moment you pick them out of the crowd, immediately you have to be cautious because you do not know what you're getting into. It used to be a tendency many years ago when I just moved to the United States. Foreigners, especially Russian people, they know you're Russian, they hear the language, they start talking to you, and then the second question they ask, oh, how did you get here? Well, we're getting into a very, very slippery slope there. Like so many years ago, that is a very triggered question. It's a loaded question because you do not want to know how I got there. Because if I'm here legally, you would be prosecuted. And I'm speaking about it freely because I was always legal. But again, I knew so many people who came here on a student visa. They overstayed and they were looking for ways how to stay here legally. So they were in the process. So that was really a loaded question. So I learned early on in my life, do not ask how do you get here? So that's just a comparison about, gut instinct of people of your kind, I guess. So the same with ADHD, whether you want it or not, you are drawn to the same people, whether it's the energy or whether it's, now I know it's basically energy of ADHD, but yet you are very cautious of them because you don't know what you get.
So Inna, you obviously have ADHD.
Obviously, I had it my whole life.
Yes. I do want to go back and talk about what you were talking about because that is very interesting. But before we dive into that, I wanted you to tell a little bit about your diagnosis story, how you got diagnosed, and how it presented in your life.
Right. So obviously, I was born with that, and the ADHD, it gave me a talent of acting, talent of mimicking, talent of comedy. So I discovered that talent before even 6 years old. And I was staying home by myself a lot because everybody was working and I was raised by my grandparents. And so I had that record player at home and I had fairy tales, the discs with the fairy tales. And those fairy tales were actually, it was a theater performances with actors and songs and stuff like that. And I remember I didn't even know the numbers. So I didn't know which side was first or second or A or B. And so I would listen to those discs and I memorized all of them and I start acting out. And so my grandma, who was she was the head of the governmental kindergarten. She would take me to her kindergarten and she would take me to the lunch break. So I remember all the cooks and everybody who was servicing kids lunches, like Russian lunches, a 3-course meal. They were cooking hot meals for kids. So when they're done with lunch and they're having their lunch while all the kids are taking the nap in Russian kindergarten from 1 to 3, 2 hours, and every kid has to have a nightgown and then they go to bed. And yeah, so they change their bed sheets. So they have their laundry stop. Yeah. We're talking about so it's the whole day kindergarten from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. But they have 3-course meal. Anyway, so when everybody had the nap break, all the teachers who are not, who relieved from the classrooms and all the cooks and everybody, they would take their lunch. And my grandma, who was the head of the whole thing, she would bring me over and she would put me, they were literally sitting behind that big metal table, that prep table they have in the kitchens and stuff. She'll put me on that table. I was that little. And she will be like, okay, Inna, So which story are you going to show us today? And I will be like, well, let me show you the story about the princess and whatever, like a princess and a witch, whatever I was listening. And they're like, okay. And the first time I remember that, like, I don't remember how old I was, but I remember that all those cooks, they're all sitting and looking like, oh, that's a cute kid on the table. What is she going to show us? And this is when I would transform. So suddenly I'm not that little kid on the table. I would be the story. So I was doing the voices, I was doing the sounds, I was doing the faces. So I will be like, and the wolf came, and the princess said, oh my God. And then the witch, and they all like, first it would be shock. Then they would get in the story so much that they would laugh so hard. And I am not just standing on the table. At this way, I was crawling on the table. I was jumping. I was doing everything. I remember they were laughing so hard that they had tears coming down because here I was so good and I was into it. But yet at the same time, I'm still a little kid who cannot even pronounce all the sounds yet. This is like, that's the talent I had. And everybody's like, whoa, who is this girl? And then after the performance, like I channel all that. And then suddenly, bam, I'm a kid again. And I'm like, okay, was that good? Grandma, was it good? Okay. Can I have a cookie? Thanks. And so that was one of my big gifts, the drawing, the reading, the imagination. But yet at the same time, later on at school, cannot concentrate for the life of me on numbers, cannot keep my mind not, like wondering in the classrooms because, and this is what I mentioned to you yesterday, I learned how to sit still because the Soviet class, you have to sit like this, 45 minutes, you cannot move. I was never physically abused. In my classroom, they never physically abused us, but verbally they did. And I was so scared that the teacher would yell at me that I would prevent that by any means. So I would sit still and I would pretend that I'm listening while I'm looking in the window and I'm looking in the clouds. And my imagination was running so wild that I would get into that state of meditation where I can see the cartoons in the clouds for hours and hours. Or in my head, I have some type of story going on. Or if I was allowed to doodle, I usually have I would draw everything, I would draw the teachers, I would draw whatever comes my way. So this is how that was my diagnosis. Inna, stop being lazy. Inna, concentrate. Inna, do this. Inna, do that. And so because I would procrastinate so much, I usually do all my work 15 minutes before the class. So we're talking about the amount of work which should be done prior to for hours and hours. It would be done 15 minutes before the class.
I was one of those kids who was like, I'd get to school and I'd sit down in the hall and quick do my homework.
Right.
I
And
never
then
did.
and then I feel so bad because I know that if I had more time and if I could concentrate that much, I could get so much more stuff done because the intelligence is there. We're smart, but yet we
Oh, yeah.
cannot control our own brain. The only one of the subjects which were absolutely fascinating for me was English language. I was in fourth grade when we start learning English, and the teacher, she did so good for my ADHD because you go into her classroom and you transform into the culture. She had all these bright posters on the wall. In Soviet Russia, there were no bright posters. She did it herself. She spent her own money of doing the English alphabet was all lit up. I don't know how much money she spent on that. And then, her classroom was so welcoming and she was interesting enough, she was loud enough, and she was actually structured enough in case of, in form of discipline that she literally got all my triggers in the right way. Like I got stimulated in the right way. I was fascinated and excited and then scared enough. And she was constantly following up with us. Like if you didn't do your homework, oh, whoa, she'll call you up on it. So thanks to her, her name was Galina Alexandrovna. I still remember that. Thanks to her, I am in United States because I loved English so much from the fourth grade. And she was so proud of me because she knew how to handle me and she knew how to nurture me. And that's why I had great results. Literature was my thing. History was my thing, except the dates, the actual historical dates. Remember? Oh my God. I use anything under the sun, the cards, the flip cards, this and that. I would never remember them for the life of me. But if I have to get up, because all of our stuff was oral exams. And if you have to answer
Mhm.
the questions, was never like, you never write it. You have to go to the blackboard. Remember the blackboard, not the
Oh
white,
yeah.
yeah, touch screen. So like if I have to tell the story, the historical story, I am there with facts and everything and events, how they happened and the reasons and what do they learn? What did we learn? But the dates I really struggle with.
You know, when
So
I taught history,
mhm,
because I taught a lot of social studies and history, I knew that the kids had a terrible time with dates, right? When I did special ed history, I would have them tell me the decade rather than like
mhm,
the actual dates of things. And then I would give them a list of things or, ask them to list the things in order. So, like in
mhm.
these 10 years, what happened in what order? And then but I didn't care about the dates. It's like you need to know that this happened before this happened after this because of
Right.
this, right? Because dates are so hard.
Well, I remember that if I actually have the presentation on a subject, I would remember at least like several dates from there because it was logically connected to me. Like if we're talking
Mhm.
about when in Russia did they stop slavery, it was in 1861 because in 1863, this is when like, like the people start fighting, blah, 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 blah. So like when it's a part of story, I feel like and because I remembered that date written there in different colors because I did that. Then as a whole, I can like my photographic memory almost like I don't have a photographic memory, but we can utilize it if we want to. If I bring up that page, I do remember where it was
Mhm.
located, what color. Oh, okay, those are the numbers. So some numbers were there. And the interesting part is those numbers stayed with me forever. But then the other numbers, uh,
So
anyways,
when were
yeah.
you diagnosed?
So I was diagnosed, I would say after 40s. This is when I had to diagnose myself. My family doctor started arguing with me. She said, "No, you don't. No, you don't." And I had to literally Google the questionnaire, like the screening for ADHD. I have to do it at home, print it out, and bring it to her. And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" She goes, "Oh, okay. I guess you're right." The pushback I got from my healthcare provider was I was dumbfounded. She is the one who are non-verbally make me feel ashamed about my diagnosis. Can you believe that? I did
That's
fire that doctor for other reasons as well. And then I start seeking the alternative, like I was seeking for a second opinion. And the healthcare provider I have right now, she's not a specialist, but she's so welcoming and listening to me that she works with me with my medication. And she's always asking me for feedback. And she's always, hey, let's talk about it. How do you feel? What do you think you would like to do? So I feel like if I feel a need to go and see a specialist and go get more of the diagnose, I have that opportunity. Right now, since my medication is actually very favorable to me, it's not magical, nothing magical with this. This is what I
doesn't
learned. There is
fix
no
anything.
magical
It just
pill.
helps.
Right. But I am actually going in the path with coaching, aka with Janine. Newsflash, she's an ADHD coach who's available on Zoom. Just saying, wink, wink, wink. But I feel like I really like this aspect because this, it doesn't make me feel any less of a human being, and it makes me feel comfortable talking about my diagnosis. It's the environment where people understand me, where the biggest thing for me is that me and Janine, it's for people who are watching, and me and Janine, we would never be upset with each other. I'm running late, okay? Because guess what? I was running late too. You texted me right before I texted you that I'm not ready yet.
That's
So
funny. We do that a lot too.
right, and it's like we're so on the same page. It's so perfectly imperfect that I love it
Yeah,
because of how
absolutely.
many years of masking it and how many years apologizing for it. And now I'm like, I do not need to apologize for something which is out of my control. Would the person who doesn't have a limb ever apologize that they cannot dance? I did see the person without a leg who can dance, just saying. But nobody will like they would never apologize for it.
Right.
And then we constantly have a need to apologize for our brain. Like this is the hardest part.
Well, and like we were talking about in today's world and in society, there are certain expectations, and sometimes we don't meet those expectations. And we have to apologize for the situation, but we're not apologizing for being who we are, you know. And
Right.
so I'm sorry I double booked, you know, I'm sorry that that's an inconvenience for you and that type of thing, but I have a reason and I'm not going to apologize for who I am. I'll apologize for the situation.
I feel like the hardest part about having ADHD is when you're in the situation where you overbook yourself, the hardest part about it that people would think stuff about us. Like for instance, me overbooking myself and not like failing on the commitment is in no way showing me the disrespect of that person. It's just it's a shortcoming on my end, which I you think that I can control, but I cannot. And I'm really working hard on it. And this is the hardest part. I feel like so many relationships are failing because of what people think about us. Because they think like, oh, she doesn't give a damn about me. But I
Mhm.
do. And I feel horrible. And I will be like eating myself alive for doing that. But then I'm so ashamed of it that I would probably not going to go out and do another appointment with you because A, I might fail again. And this way you're going to see the tendency about me. Or B, I'm so ashamed that I feel like you don't want to see me anymore.
Have those stories that we run in our heads, right? Because you think about the time I triple booked myself, and that's why I missed your 50th birthday party because
Right.
I had
Right.
so many things going on. And I knew that you understood. That didn't change the fact that I felt really bad about the
It
whole
was super
situation.
sad. Like it was so sad, but I honestly I did not want it to bring more on your plate because you felt horrible about it. But I literally was devastated because I was so looking forward to share it with you. So
I was too.
it was a hard blow. And but that was one of those situations when I'm like, hey, this stuff is real. It's not only real for me. So when I actually beat myself up, this is a fact. This is what everybody with ADHD are going through. So it's hard.
So
Oh
I want
well.
to go back to, I'm very curious. You were kind of stalking me or checking me out. And trying to gauge whether or not we could be friends, right?
Yes, yes. So it was not stalking or gauging. I was very cautious in perceiving you because I felt so much similarities. I just did not know is that a good thing or a bad thing because
Mm.
so we're talking about gut feeling. So if you translate it in our terms right now, what I was feeling that I have ADHD and obviously you have ADHD, and I did not know whether it's going to be a good relationship and good energy together, or are we actually is it going to backfire? Because if your ADHD is stronger than mine and you control it less than me, then it's going to start triggering me because you're going to be all over the place and I'm going to start getting annoyed.
Right. Where does that annoyance come from, do you think? Is it because you're trying so hard to
I would
do all the
say
things?
so, but just saying, for instance, it was affecting my job. So I was a hairstylist, right? So like as of right now, if I didn't quit, I would be a hairstylist for 20 years. In my the hairstylist career, so I have different clients, ADHD clients, blah blah blah. So the mild ADHD annoyance come from a client who cannot sit still. And you cut their hair and they constantly sit like this and constantly sit like this. So what I learned, again, gut feeling, I didn't even know about ADHD, but I learned that educating the clients actually helps a lot. So what I would do, I would say when they start moving, I would touch their shoulders and I would say, I'm so sorry. You don't realize that you're moving. But what happened is when you move your shoulders, your length constantly changing. So the chances are that my haircut's going to be uneven and very, very high, so would you please like uncross your legs and kind of relax for me? So when you put that in perspective, people are like, oh yeah, oh, I'm sorry. And then they kind of need your guidance. So if subconsciously they start moving, I just lightly tap them on the shoulder and they go, oh, okay. And I'm like, that's fine, that's fine. But then we go to the very severe cases where you're trying to work with the person and you give them that prep, you give them education, and they're like, okay, fine. And I mean, we're talking about this, and my eye opener was when I had a girl who had severe ADHD, and she's moving and grooving, and and you have to understand, every time I have to bring it up, it makes my service 5 minutes more, 5 minutes more. So we're talking about 30 minutes haircut, which is taking 1.5 hours. So here I'm getting a hit, financial hit right now. I am getting aggravated, not because I'm mad at her, because I'm struggling so much to do a good job on her. And I'm not able to do that because physically it's an obstacle. It's like a moving target. And then so the focal point of everything was, I am raising her hair and I'm going for a cut. Here's my fingers, here's the scissors. And that moment she goes, oh my God, look at that cute bag. And she really jumps off my chair. My scissors are going into my hand. I don't know how I did not slice my, like right here, like really deep. It was so scary that I'm like, oh my God, I really had to raise my voice. I'm like, what are you doing? She's like, oh, I'll be right there. She felt a need to jump off the chair in the middle of haircut to go and talk to somebody. That was the time where I had to step outside for like a minute, compose myself, come back, finish her style, and everything was fine. I finished the style, but as a client, I actually had to fire her. And then again, with ADHD, she would not be consistent. Did she voice her opinion? Did she like you know what I'm saying? This is what we're talking about. With ADHD, she might change her mind, and then she will try to put it on me. And then I would have to redo the style and color and this and that. So financially, it's going to backfire me. And then me having ADHD, I start questioning myself as a specialist. So that makes me want to quit to do what I do. So this is what we're talking about. ADHD, dealing with ADHD, it triggers on so many different levels that it's not just like, oh, she's annoying. She can affect my well-being. She will affect me as a working specialist. So I had to be cautious with you.
So what finally convinced you that I was maybe safe to approach?
I think the fact that I was cautiously proceeding with you, that was a really good strategy on my end. I came up to you, I introduced myself, and then I stepped back, and then I went and talked to other people, and then I came back, and just by doing that in smaller doses and stuff, it gave me a chance just kind of observe and kind of like taste the water without making any assumptions. And that showed me that I'm safe. When I saw you drawing, this is when it put me at ease, because that was my language. You were doodling in your thing, and I'm like, oh, and this is when you said that, oh, I'm ADHD coach, and I found that, drawing and doodling and creative process, it's very soothing. And I'm like, speaks my language. She's Russian.
I wish I could speak Russian.
You can always fake the accent.
Not well.
So I had an experience several years ago where I met an ADHD evil person. Let me explain to you. So there is more to that person than ADHD, clearly. I would say there's some mental disorders, but what happened is I met up this lady online. We were in similar group. So we started to read each other comments, and we could relate on that comments. It was a common subject and this and that. So we got to talk, and this person, we're similar age. We have so many similarities. And so it was an instant kind of connection. We started doing the video calls and this and that. So the ADHD part was outgoing, oversharing. So the red flags were, okay, we were both the same age. Can you imagine the person who will call you every morning and tell you, how was your night? Good morning. How are you? You are my best friend. You are my girlfriend. I don't have any girlfriends. You're my best friend. And I keep I'm thinking, why do you have a need to call me every morning to tell me good morning? I have a husband for that. Like those little things.
And she was hyper fixated on you.
Oh my God, you have no idea, girl. You have no idea. So what happened is, when we're already like friends, then suddenly her religious belief came up, and it was poured on me with a lot of judgment. Oh, you celebrate Halloween? It was not just like, oh, you celebrate it and I don't. And I'm like, no, I don't celebrate Halloween. I use it as an opportunity to dress up because I like theater. Like, I don't worship Halloween. So there was those red flags. So everything blew up in my face when I was invited to visit her in Canada with so much fun I had and a very welcoming and very kind person. And say one story, and that was the lightest one. And then we'll just keep it that way.
Okay.
So this is what happened. I am driving to Canada, and it takes what? It takes 1 hour to the border, then over the border, and 3 hours to her place. So that was my first time going to Canada. I did not know that I'm gonna lose the self-service. So what happens is I'm going on the border. My GPS still works, but then my phone doesn't. Everything else doesn't work, but the GPS is showing me where to go. So I cross the border. I'm talking to her on the phone before that. And then I'm like, okay, I said, I'm going to cross the border and I'll call you. Well, what happens is I cross the border. There's no connection. I was thinking, well, I'm just going to keep driving. She knows I'm going to be there. So we estimated the time. I have to be there by a certain time. If I'm not there by that time, then she should get worried, right? I'm just driving. Everything is fine. I have enough gas. I didn't even have to pull over or stop or anything. So right on the money. I'm supposed to be there at 3 p.m. their time. I'm there at 3 p.m. So I found her house. I ring the bell. She opens the door and then she runs out there, grabs me, and start screaming and crying. Oh my God. Oh, I'm so happy you made it. I thought something happened to you. I'm like, what? Oh my God, I thought you were, I don't know, did they stop you? Did they deported you back to Russia? I said, why? I'm an American citizen. I don't know, like we were talking and then suddenly, so I called my mom and I'm like, oh my God, Ina is not telling me anything and like her phone is not replying. And then I called my boyfriend and then he called somebody else and like I have all those people calling me. And I'm like, I'm fine. I said, my cell phone service stopped working. She goes, well, yeah, because you crossed the border. And I said, yes. So if there will be an emergency, I would pull over to a gas station or something and ask somebody to borrow the phone or whatever. I would have called you, or I would ask their Wi-Fi and text you or whatever. But my GPS is working. So I thought if I don't arrive to your house by 3 p.m., then I'll find out how to get a hold of you, or something happened and I got stopped. So I was driving. Yeah, but you have to understand. I didn't know what to do. I mean, legitly, she was crying on her porch by grabbing me. I kid you not, 10-15 minutes. That was the time when I should have say, oh, I need to grab something on my car. Freaking turn around, get in my car and go back. Just saying. So to say that I have to be cautiously optimistic is the thing. Not against ADHD people, but you have to see the tendencies of ADHD can, lure you for something else. So I'm having that experience, and the backlash was absolutely horrific. I ended up blocking this person online, and she ended up stalking me online, and she ended up sending me threatening messages and stuff. So yeah, she ended up contacting everybody whom we had in common online and telling them absolutely horrific things about me. So yeah.
Yeah.
I have to do
approach with caution, right?
Please. And it's nothing bad. The fact that we have a tendency to overshare, that should be proceed with caution and watch for red flags. Because a lot of other mental disease, they have oversharing, but then there is a borderline. There should be a balance. Usually when I catch myself oversharing, that's a mental note for me to just kind of.
My question: how did your life change after diagnosis and medication?
Remember the saying, with great power comes great responsibilities. This is what happened. Just because you get diagnosed, this is just the beginning of your trip. Because when you don't know the diagnosis, you're dealing with completely different things. You question yourself, there is depression, blah, blah, blah. When you get diagnosed, that does not go away yet. Then you have new things coming in. So there's so many different stages of it. First, you're in denial. You do not want to have that diagnosis because you think, am I stupid? You really kept getting back to the word mental health, and you're shocked. You appall. You do not believe. Never ever did you think that you have a mental health issue. Let's put it that way. So guess what? Right now, I see a lot of people around me who start questioning whether they have ADHD as an adult. We're talking about women, but yet they immediately go in denial. No, it's not happening to me. No, I don't want it. I repel it, it's not for me.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't go away anywhere. So whether you want to deal with that or not, so I feel like the stages of accepting the thing that you have, it takes years, and you go back and forward, and you have a lot of aha moments, and then you have a lot of depression, bouts of depression, because then it's almost like, I don't know.
I'd rather just not know.
Like,
Yeah.
I was suspecting and I wanted to know, but then when I know now, oh man, now I have to deal with that. Like, what do I do with that? So I feel like my biggest advice for people who are wondering whether they have ADHD or not, just be ready for the journey. Like, it's not the destination, it's a journey. No matter what, if you set up on bettering your life, just be ready for the journey. Is it going to be easy? No. Is it going to be like full of twists and turns and it takes you places you don't want to be? Absolutely. But is it going to be rewarding? Heck yeah. After so many of obstacles and ups and downs and everything, you get to the point that then after how many years, you actually like, you know what? It's okay. Oops, I just flunk again. I just did the same mistake I was working so hard on. Guess what? That's okay. If you need to cry about it, cry about it. That's my mechanism. If it gets too much, I just cry. And then you like wash with tears all that anxiety, let it all out. That's a very healthy outburst. You cry.
Well, you know that there's scientific evidence that shows that there are chemicals that are released through our tears that help reduce stress.
Absolutely. And then you like you basically you like start over again. You wash it away. You wash that negativity away. Then you give yourself grace and you say, you know what? It's okay. It happened again, but now I have a power of knowledge. I know exactly what happened. That kind of gives me a little bit of more of control of my emotions. So before, I didn't know why that happened. Before, it was a lot of why it happens to me. Now it's like, I know exactly what happened to me. So guess what? Could be worse. Nice try. Try it again. It gives you so much freedom. You literally liberate yourself. You literally let yourself be imperfect. Why are we always striving for perfection? Who even come up with perfection?
It's one of those things that's very common with people with ADHD, is striving for perfection. And I think a big part of that is we want to prove that we're just as good as everybody else, right? And better even. And so perfection is attached to our worth in a lot of ways.
Right. But basically we're proving it to ourselves.
Correct. But we think, like our minds are like, I've got to be able to do this and I've got to do it exactly right. That's another one, like if it's not perfect, it's not done. Right. And learning to embrace the good enough of life. And I think that like you are a huge example of a person who has said, I'm going to embrace my life. I'm going to be positive about my life. I'm not going to say negative things to myself, and I'm going to give myself grace. Talk a little bit about what you do with your TikToks and your Instagrams and some of that stuff, because I want to make sure that people out there know that you exist on social media and what you do.
Well, people need to know that, first of all, I'm constantly soul searching. So right now I am in the soul searching moment of my social media. So it's all out there. I'm not getting rid of it, but yet I'm restructuring and rethinking a lot of it. And again, soul searching is a big part of my journey. Nobody said that if you set up the goal and if you go towards that goal, and then nobody said that you cannot soul search or pause and rethink everything. Nobody said that.
You can stop and like reassess
constantly. And I guess that's a good thing, because that's actually a smart thing to do. Do you really want to get there and realize that you spend all that time doing something that you really didn't even want to, or you thought you wanted to, but it's not your ultimate goal? So it's okay. We are very creative, as I mentioned earlier. So being a creative person, you constantly have to assess, do I really go the right way? And it's okay to change it. The other thing is, just something came to me right now. We do have good news. The good news is If we follow our passion, we unleash the resources other people don't have. For instance, so I belong to a Toastmasters club. Toastmasters is basically a public speech practice society. Anybody can join it. It's on toastmasters.com, I guess. So it's international group. I got to this club through my work. Everybody who are there were prior to me joining 5 years. I've been there for 2 years now. So those are people who are learning how to do the public speech. Those are people who are working really hard on it. I am a person who have accent, but my speeches, and I'm not saying they're better technically, but my speeches are so engaging and so creative that people don't speak after my speech for like a second because they need a moment to just come back to reality. This is what we're talking about. You get in your element and you're going to be good at that, not because you're better than anybody else, because you have unlimited resources. And then when you're following your passion, you have unlimited dopamine. That means you're going to be working days and nights on what you like. That's it.
A passion can stick with you throughout your life, but it can demonstrate itself in a lot of different ways. And but I think everybody has something that they feel pretty passionately about.
Oh, and when people start questioning themselves, that's because they're trying to alter their passion. Do not castrate your dream. Do not. This is what happens. We, especially women, because we're mothers, we are providers, we're nurturers. So we feel like we have so many responsibilities where our responsibilities come before our passion. Biggest baloney of the century. Guess what happens? If we are selfish enough to follow our passion our whole life, then we're going to be so much better for our responsibilities because we're going to be on top of our games, because we're going to be happier. When we're happy, we're full of dopamine, we're full of creativity, we're full of energy. It can only represent itself as being a better mother, a better provider, a better nurturer. But we're like raping ourselves every day of our life because, oh, I cannot do that. No. How can I follow my passion when I have to do this? Why do you need to choose? If you follow your passion, you're literally making money by being happy. Why do you choose? Why do we constantly question ourselves? So what I'm saying is, and again, I am coming down to this conclusion after years and years of finding it or searching for it. The breakthrough I had yesterday with you when it just dawned on me. We were talking about at our ADHD support group. We were talking about following your passion. You said the phrase, but the passion could change. And I had a Disney moment, aha moment. I was like, oh my gosh, my passion for acting and being entertainer never changed. Never changed. It changed its shape because I'm trying to fit it into my life because I keep cutting it and altering it. But I just stopped and I'm like, oh my gosh, I have this passion and I never act on it. I only act on it partially. And it doesn't give me satisfaction because I keep choking myself. And so I said, I should probably just go to college to take acting classes. And my other friend said, there's a program where you can get education for free. She sent me the link. Oh, I still have time before deadline. And the amount of dopamine I get just by thinking about it, just by thinking about it. I got up out of bed today, physically tired, but emotionally I was so charged. Let's go. Anything keeps coming at you. When you are depriving yourself from your passion, you're very vulnerable. When you are following your passion, you have so much dopamine, you have so much energy, you really feel invincible. Like a superhero. With great power comes great responsibility.
Isn't it funny how just one little sentence or one little phrase can sometimes start that process going?
That's because the universe is waiting for you to tune in to your passion because that's your path. But whatever you believe in, if you are very religious, that's God's way of speaking with you. That's your calling. Do not deny your calling. And the calling can be, it might sound not serious. For me, I'm 50 years old and I want to go on stage. That sounds kind of like pathetic if you think about it. But
no, it doesn't.
On stage, I will have so much energy and passion that it would actually completely override the lack of, experience, the lack of education, my accent, anything. Like it transforms me. This is something when I'm on stage, I don't belong to myself. I am channeling something amazing. And that's a superpower. This is what we need to strive for. What if somebody has a passion for making clothes for animals? That's hilarious, right? But it could be a career. It could be a passion which will, I don't know, change the industry. Somebody started making clothes for dolls. Somebody started making clothes for animals.
Yeah, absolutely. And my passion has always been education, and I still feel like I educate. It's part of what I do, and it's probably part of, like when you say a calling, I feel like I was always a teacher. Like I just had to get my degree so I could do it because it was that much a part of me. I am a teacher, I am an educator, and there's other jobs that'll go with it, right?
Right. Right.
But
But
my true
my
passion is
calling
there.
was always acting, and that's why I was very good at any other professions, because fake it till you make it. When I
Hmm.
was in nursing college, I was a really good nurse. I was very compassionate. I was very knowledgeable, and everybody's like, "Oh, you should be a doctor." I'm like, "Nah, bored." When I was getting my teaching degrees, I was really good at that because I was acting to be a teacher. And it's not a bad thing, it's a good thing. Anything I do, I'm good at that because as a real actor, a real entertainer, you get into that profession. You don't just show it. Was I a good hairstylist? Absolutely, because I was playing a hairstylist.
Right. And it's so funny that you say that because every time and I've always said, every time I stepped into a classroom, I stepped on a stage.
Mm-hmm.
Because and I like you love to act. I have the acting bug. And so like it kind of combines two of the greatest things, teaching
Right.
and acting, because you kind of step on stage and you take on that persona of, you try to keep yourself as genuine as possible, but on the other hand, you're still acting the part.
Oh, I had fun at school because I was enjoying it so much. I was doing everything kids were doing. The same time, because I'm really good on stage, I had a really good classroom management skills, being a parapro. So let's not do that. So kids still love me. I'm helping backstage right now at high school. So I am fun. I am a parent. I am a hairstylist. So we have a lot of fun. But I kid you not, I can raise my voice very easily if they step out of line. High school kids, they start swearing. Excuse me. Oh, 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 I'm so sorry, Miss Phelps. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, I some of my best memories are working on my kids' plays and their musicals and
Right,
doing all of that. And it is a different way to experience theater,
right.
right? Because you're not on stage, but you're still in the mix. And there's something about being in the mix that's really exciting.
So maybe since we start talking about it and you're gonna post that podcast, I would probably need to do the accountability check and say, hey, would you like to check in later with me and see if I enroll in that class and see how I follow my passion?
Absolutely. So yes, and so that kind of brings me to the fact that people don't know we meet twice a week. We walk together on Thursdays usually. Today we're recording our podcast, which is fine because it's a mushy, slushy mess out there right now.
So,
Um, so then we also meet on Friday mornings to body double.
right.
And we say for a half an hour. We usually end up doing longer just because, we talk for a while. But for at least a half an hour on Fridays, we are body doubling and getting stuff done. And so that is one of those things that we would talk about with body doubling and then, work on. It's good because since you and I met, we have started walking together. We've started body doubling together. We have started a support group, a face-to-face support group in our local community. And
Which
if
is
you hear the
hard
Charlotte,
because it's hard to get ADHD people together in one spot.
it is really hard to gather people face to face when they have ADHD, but we're doing it and people are getting some benefit from it. And I think it's awesome. Ina and I we've just kept on rolling with this connection through ADHD as our friendship has grown really very strong. And I do want to point out that we don't agree on everything,
No,
but we manage to have really good relationship because of openness, acceptance, and
respect,
listening.
mutual respect. Yes,
Yeah, mutual
absolutely.
respect.
And so I feel like our relationship, for me, what the way how I see it, I would like for Janine to actually expand her clientele, because I think Janine, don't listen, I'm talking about you. I think she's a great coach who not only she gives you great advices and different perspective, but she can listen. And that is so important, because a lot of times, because of the ADHD stigma, people, they cannot listen to you, or if they listen to you, they actually judge you in their mind. I see that a lot. You're trying to share your ADHD concerns or fears or troubles, and people like, but they kind of have that look, like they always smirk, like you're not for real. Like, I notice that a lot. Maybe I'm looking into it a lot, but it does, I feel like it is there. So you can listen. And this is what is so amazing, because like that gives me validation, like thank you, like I am important, I'm not making this stuff up. Like, a lot of people think if I'm easygoing and I'm fun, then I'm not serious. I have very deep emotions, and it's amazing the way how you deal with clients. So as I see that you can help so many more people, and I just see that I would like to see you succeed. Me, my role in this friendship, in this the work we're doing together, I always say Janine is a coach, I'm a big fan of ADHD.
You're
So
the cheerleader. Woo!
I am the cheerleader, I am the ADHD diva. And so the way how I would like to see my role in this, while you're giving people the advice, while you're giving people the tools, I would like to be a facilitator of that, because first of all, I benefit from that. And second of all, I would like to make it dynamic. I would like to make it fun. I would like to get paid for it as well, because I would like to help as many people as possible.
I wanted to ask one more question before we go, and that is, if you could go back and tell that little girl sitting in a classroom in Russia something, what would you say?
God, I just want to cry. I just want to give her a hug.
Okay.
It's gonna be so hard for her. But I want to tell her, you know what? Okay, it's okay to be you. Just be yourself. The reason why I'm emotional, I'm crying, and that's totally unexpected. Darn you with your stupid podcasts, which are real. The reason why I'm so emotional, because my whole childhood and the settings of it was all centered around breaking my personality. The country was rough. My family situation was rough. I went through so much in my life, which could totally break another person. But the reason why I was unbreakable is because I stayed true to myself. And every time it happened, I would get stronger and stronger. So that would be my advice for myself of that time. Follow your dreams, because that's the most important thing. Just follow your dreams. Anytime you are in that, now it's historical moment when I said no to my dream, I should have chosen it. And I spent years and years working on my emotions to override that and the stress of it. But on the positive note, it's never too late.
Never too late.
Seriously, it's never too late. Hey, you know what? Maybe I had to ripe to this moment. Maybe I had to have all this life experience to bring so much more to my personality. Maybe my calling in this life to become successful performer slash entertainer after the certain age, to show other people that it's just seriously never too late. Because it's your passion. There is no
Mhm.
expiration date on your passion.
I hope not. I sure hope not.
That's why we
Well,
met at the movie set.
we were meant to be. Inna, I would just want to say it has been a great time talking to you. As always, we have some of the best conversations, and we finally had a chance to record one. I am hoping that you'll come back and join me again sometime.
Thank you so much. I actually think it would be a great idea, because now I have that accountability. If I forget of what I wanted to do now, hypothetically, 5 people will watch that. Hypothetically, I'm not even talking about big numbers. We're talking about 5 people. So that means that I lied to 5 people. So I don't want to lie to 5 people. So I have a deadline now. What is that? 1.5 months to do that, enroll in classes and stuff and just start. And I'm just going to keep myself accountable. So hopefully I get to come to your podcast again and say, guess what? It's working. The dopamine is there. The concentration is there because I am loving it.
Awesome.
So hopefully we can show everybody with ADHD, just follow your passion. It's so simple. It's ridiculous. Thank you so much, Janine.
Thank you so much.
We do have a lot of fun. We do. And hopefully we can share it with people. And hopefully if we can just brighten up somebody's day for just 1 second, if somebody can watch this and say, wow, I got something out of it, that's all that we would like to do.
So you butterflies on the wall, if you've enjoyed our conversation, you've enjoyed our content, make sure that you hit that like, subscribe, and ultimately, I hope you take something away from what we said today, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.